Welcome to the Alpha Wolf Impact Club. I'm Tim Weintraut, and this is where we shine a light on small companies with big ideas. Our mission here is crystal clear. We want to identify, support, and champion game changers. Those companies that are tackling massive challenges, revolutionizing industries, saving lives, or making us more efficient. For example, today we have CEO Trent Mell from Electra Battery Materials. Electra Battery Materials is securing North America's critical mineral interests with a 100% North American supply of battery grade cobalt. Electra is the midstream link between mining and lithium batteries. They can process material from mines and recycled material from battery manufacturing and produce battery grade products. DRC feeds could be supplemented with North American feedstock as domestic mines are built, and there are very few alternatives to Chinese cobalt today. This is without question an impact company, and I'm going to let Trent tell you more about that in just a moment. This is not to be taken as investment advice. I am not a certified financial planner. This is for education and entertainment purposes only. I encourage everyone to do their own due diligence. Hey everybody, Tim from Alpha Wolf Capital coming at you with a follow-up to a great story. It's been a little bit since Trent and I have gotten the opportunity to sit down and have a chat. Although I did get to sit down and talk with Heather, and that was just as good actually. Trent Mell from Electra Battery Materials, ticker symbol is ELBM, and I was Trent and I were talking before we hopped on, and I told him straight out that I liked Trent from day one, from the day I first met you, which was that was years ago, right?
It was, yeah.
And I liked what you were trying to do because I had genuine concerns about China and the critical minerals, and it's really coming to fruition that is a problem, right? And I felt as though you were part of the solution, at least for the states, to that problem. And here we are today. But you you're like a master magician, right? It's been a tough. This has not been an easy road for
Nope.
Trent Mell, right?
Not
So
at all.
Trent, for
Yeah.
those that don't know the story, can you
Yeah.
just real quick kind of give us a backdrop of who Trent Mell is, how
Sure.
you got here, and what ELBM is all about?
Thank you. Yeah. Great intro. Appreciate it. I got a lot of time for you as well, Tim. And I will say for your listeners, I appreciate the off-air advice and feedback you give me as well, because you're a good market observer. Look, myself, I started life, I guess my second career really was a lawyer. I was doing deals. I was doing M&A and in Toronto. I grew up in Montreal. Didn't move too far, and I was doing a lot of mining transactions. So that brought me into the mining world. And so started with Barrick Gold, back then biggest gold company in the world, and sort of traveled the world doing that. Did my MBA, so sort of migrated from being a private firm lawyer to an in-house lawyer to a business person. Ran around a bunch of different mining companies, gold, palladium, nickel, and then I joined a family office and raised capital for a bunch of these companies. And this one started that we were first Cobalt before we were Electra, so it was 2017, which feels like a lot. I guess it was a long time ago, but the idea back then was similar, just a different part of supply chain. It was okay. All our cobalt's coming from the Congo. What can we do about it? So we started drilling in Ontario, Canada. We started drilling in Idaho, amalgamated four companies. And along the way, honestly, it was almost by mistake. We ended up with this refinery. It was part of a whole bunch of mineral claims we were rolling up. And as the cobalt price, the cycles, they boom and they bust. So as the cycle was starting to cool down, we turned our sights onto the refinery And we did realize once we started paying attention, we realized we had something special, right? Now, instead of the DRC, it's okay, this is the China story. More than 90% of battery grade cobalt or cobalt sulfate powders coming out of the People's Republic of China. What can we do about that? And that's kind of how we got on this road. So for the last 4 to 5 years, it's really been about getting this refinery up and going. And then, we had the misfortune, I suppose, of starting construction right after COVID. So supply chain blows and inflation and investor backed out. And so half built, we paused, and that's the pain you alluded to, Tim. The last couple of years have been really tricky, but as peers around us unfortunately fell away, we battened down the hatches and we came out of this pretty victorious as of yesterday.
All right. So you're fully funded now for the refinery, right? I
We
mean,
are.
you're good there.
Amen. Yeah.
And that's where you pulled the rabbits out of the hat,
Yeah.
including one from, which I thought was just absolutely amazing, one from the Department of Defense of the U.S.
Yeah.
into a Canadian company, which I just thought was really amazing. I mean, and it wasn't a little chunk of money; it was a pretty decent chunk of money, right?
$20 million grant. And look, the genesis of that goes back to the Korean War, right? America goes to Korea, and Jesus, we're not ready, right? We don't have the ammunition, we don't have the supplies, and we don't have the metal. And so, knock on Canada's door, and it's like, what do you need? We need aluminum, we need iron ore, we need steel. And so that's where this, we call it the Defense Production Act, Title III. That's where DoD starts this investing back in the Korean War days into a couple of Canadian assets. And then they dusted that off, and they've invested in, I think, 7 Canadian companies, and we've been the flagship or the biggest investment, $20 million grant. And the idea here is we want to make sure that we know where to get the cobalt if we ever need it. And it's been an amazing relationship. I love working with them, and they're grateful for their support.
So that it's good to hear that you're still friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got the little rift between
Listen,
the current
little noise.
administration and
Yeah.
Canada, but and as I look at things, if I just take a step back and take a 30,000-foot view,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but the things that are happening, I don't see as necessarily a bad thing. I see them as very good thing. I see Canada as strengthening themselves more independently of the United States. And yes, that initially that hurts, but the bottom line is you are our neighbors, you are our friends. You and I are friends. That's not going to change. This is noise right now. But
Yeah.
here's
I
what we
agree.
have in
I
common.
agree. Yeah.
The administration knows and recognizes that they need critical minerals, and they know that China controls 90% of them. So we are able now to, and you could probably explain this to people better than I can. The thought of putting a mine in the United States for anything,
Yeah.
from concept to actual production, takes somewhere around 17 to 20 years. We don't have 17 to 20 years to wait, right? And I think the administration is trying to make it as easy as possible to
Yeah.
actually start a mine. Am I accurate there?
It's been great. Look, this administration, it's like it took a snow globe off the shelf and it's just shaking everything up, right? And that's domestic policy, it's foreign policy, it's trade relations, and there's snow blowing everywhere and nobody knows where it's going to land. But the centerpiece, right, driving that, a centerpiece, critical minerals, right? It's China. It's about mineral independence. It's about national security. It's about having the war machine not under foreign influence, or at least an adversarial influence. And so, look, as unpredictable as this year has been in many sectors, for us, it's pretty damn clear, right? Under the last administration, we were building out this asset for the EV revolution and clean air and low carbon. Under this administration, it's a different narrative, but yet for me, the strategy is still the same, right? We got to build these assets here, right? We can't rely on China for clean air and EVs, and we can't rely on China for our military and industrial strength. And so Canada, US, yeah, fine, doesn't matter. We're porous in that. Like, we have the same national security interests. But you're right, Tim. For the first time in my life, it would seem to be a lot easier to build in America, in the US, than in Canada. And we always thought as Canada as being the bastion of mining and critical minerals and expertise. But if you were to ask me where would you spend your next dollar if you're going to build a mine, well, of course we got assets in Idaho, so it's a pretty easy answer. But the policy environment has never been more favorable for miners in America.
Right. And it needs to be. I mean, look, we're
Yeah,
behind the curve. Um, you know, we in this country, I felt as though we were heading down a very dangerous path. I mean, there was a time in this country when you bought American and you felt really good. I felt good about it because it meant a couple of things. It meant that you probably were employing one of your neighbors to a job,
yeah,
and typically the quality of the product that you bought was better than anywhere else. Made in America was a really positive thing
yeah,
back in the day. Then we took all of our jobs and shipped all that overseas, and just stopped mining and all these things because we didn't want to disturb the burrowing
yeah,
beetle and some other crazy ass shit that means nothing for humanity. And we have to catch up. I mean, that's
yeah.
just the reality of it, right?
You do. Yeah,
Um, and this administration is shaking a lot of stuff up and making things happen that maybe people don't like. But the reality is it needed to be done. And it's
yeah,
becoming more and more clear than ever right now.
yeah.
The position that they're in. We're in,
It
right?
it helps this whole battery piece, and whether it's for drones or cars. When you start talking about lithium and graphite and cobalt, and it's changed the views of young people on what mining means, right? We used to have this cute little line: if it's not grown, it's mined, right? Like anything around us, you got to farm it or you got to dig it out of the ground. And so we would try to make that point, like you can't not mine. You don't want it in your backyard, sure, you can do it in a third world country and hope the standards are better, hope they're not dumping tails into the river and using child labor, or we can do it the right way,
Right.
whatever that means. And so I think from what I'm seeing with my own kids, there's a greater openness and interest in mining. So I think that helps. I mean, I don't think this administration cares that much. They know we got to do it, and we're going to do it. But it does feel like there's maybe a little bit of a societal shift that, hey, mining's not a bad thing. These rare earths, I like my magnets.
And
um,
the reality is they are using child labor, and their working conditions are not great,
yeah.
and they don't pay their people worth of shit. That's the reality of it, right?
Well, look,
Now,
when I look at my peers in China, or competitors in China, some of them, not all, some of them are buying artisanal cobalt feed at a 40% discount to the prevailing market price, right? And so if I'm going to compete, dollar per dollar with a Chinese investor that's doing everything, or a Chinese company doing everything wrong, there's a huge price disadvantage. But
right?
we got to give our head a shake. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's acceptable. And so this
Exactly.
administration is doing that as well, right? It's tariff barriers, but it's also non-tariff barriers. And we got to be mindful. You got places in the world where everything's going into the ocean. And nobody cares because you can't see it, right? It's not happening off the coast of Florida.
Right.
So there's a little bit of that, but I think really the starting point for us is we need to control our destiny. And
Absolutely.
if you can't source the raw materials, the critical raw materials you need to build essential infrastructure, then you're not in control. You're pretty bloody vulnerable.
So this is so I'm just trying to connect dots. That's what I try to do as an investor, right? And I look at where we are. I don't think we're going to reverse course. I mean, I think it's
Yeah,
become very clear that we are at a disadvantage here, and that playing field needs to level
yeah,
out a little bit. I think that the DoD is already, and this is, I was it during the Trump administration that the DoD, I don't know. I'm
yeah.
asking, where they came up and ponied up with you?
You know what happened? It was during the Trump administration that we had the first critical minerals list. 2017,
Okay,
they added cobalt to there was a list. They updated it. They added cobalt and a bunch of critical minerals and rare earths, I believe. And then during the Biden administration, where they were looking for investments for the supply chain. And look, what's interesting now. So it started under Biden. Under Trump, what's changed? Um, and I've had some conversations with some senior folks in DC. Instead of just giving money away, like we're going to keep doing it. In fact, we might do more of it. We don't want to invest in battery plants and assembly plants. We're going upstream. We're going to mining and refining because that's where it all starts. So that was the first win that we got in terms of our future growth plans. And the second win is for American taxpayers. We're not just going to throw away helicopter money, right? We'll put a floor price, sure, to make sure that you're getting a fair return, but we want shares and we want some prepaid warrants and we want a coupon on the money we're lending you. And so for the issuer like me, it's still good money, right? And great to have the US government as a shareholder. But the taxpayer is not just giving it away. They're going to make a fair return. It's a win-win. Like at MP,
Right.
right? I mean, you can double and triple your stock just by saying you're working with the US government. So I think it's a nice formula. It's a nice market-based approach, and
Yep.
one that doesn't put the taxpayer entirely on the hook for it.
Okay. All right. Let's I want to address the elephant in the room. Look, the stock has had an amazing run,
Yep.
right? You like I said, pulled rabbits out of hats. You're fully funded for the refining plant. So here's the concern is that the market is unsure. You announced that you're
Yeah.
considering a reverse split, and the market is unsure about what the outcome of that is going to be, right?
Right. Yeah.
And that's look, the market, if there's one thing the market hates, it's uncertainty. They don't know. So right now the stock is reflective of that.
Right.
I look at things, if you're an investor, you look at this as a very brief moment in time. This is, what happens today, while it may seem like, oh my God, it's the end of the world, it's really not. Uh, we're going to be okay. And if
Wow.
you are feeling that you need to do something to strengthen the position, and I can understand you feeling that way because you just went through
Yeah.
hell trying to stay listed on the NASDAQ. It's not fun. It consumes all of your time. You're
Yeah.
not working on the things you need to be working on. You're trying to stay listed. That's not
Yeah.
a fun place to be. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
And I understand the fear of that, especially because it's so fresh, right? But the reality is, you're in a very different place today than you were 6 or 8 months ago. Would you agree
Yeah.
with
True.
that?
Yeah. No. No. I agree. And look, and I appreciate the feedback because when we basically we had to reset the balance sheet, right? We converted 40 million of debt, so we from 67 down to 27. This is all, of course, USD. 48 million of government support, right? So that's DoD, Government of Canada, and the provincial government. And then we went out and did an equity raise, 30, took it to 34 and a half. And so we've got, kind of 82.5 million of capital plus the debt forgiveness, issued a lot of shares. And when we priced this, we were trading, just over 90 cents. And so the NASDAQ listing was in doubt, right? So we priced a unit at 75 cents and then it was a steady march up. We didn't, as you'd expect, we didn't trade down to the issue price. We went to a buck five and then a buck 10. And the dealers that were working with us, they said, Trent, I've never seen this. And then you look at your chart, you're like a meme stock, right? We went up 325% one day on the basis of a news article. And so we hit a low 52-week low, I think so at 77 cents, but we went up to 870. And so if you roll back the clock to the financing, it's okay, 75-cent deal. We better, when we get the shareholder vote for the debt swap, we better also get the approval from our shareholders for our rollback. So we were looking up to 3.5 to 1. And now people are looking at me and say, Trent, like, what are you doing? Right? Because we haven't gone near a dollar. And so here we are, right? We got a puzzle to
So,
figure out.
Trent, here's the thing. Let me ask you a question. How many shares do you have fully diluted outstanding right now?
Right now we got about 100 million.
100 million, which
Yeah.
I consider 100 million shares to actually be on the lighter side, right?
Mm.
Anything over 100 million, I think you start to get, you know, but 100 million, I still think that's kind of on the low side of a share count. So if you're talking about liquidity, right, you
Yeah.
got to have
Yeah.
some shares available to trade.
Yeah.
You do a reverse that puts you at what 3.5 to 1, that puts you at what?
Yeah. It might be a little,
You,
yeah, it
then you
might be a little
become
light.
then you become almost too tight, right?
Yeah.
There's a fine balance, man.
There
Somewhere in
is.
there.
Yeah, there is. Yep. Yep. Or yeah, look, and let's see how we settle here. We're a day in, and it's holding up well. I'd love to not have to do a roll. Like we got the approval from our shareholders. And so for some investors, they look at that like they got a bit of a gun to their, like, when are they going to do that and what does it mean? And we'll have to figure that out sooner than later, right? To take that uncertainty, either pull the trigger on something or take it off the table. But people need an answer rather than living in
Right.
this what if. So yeah, I recognize that. I don't have an answer yet, but I'd love to
And
not
that's
have to do
okay.
it.
That's
Yeah.
okay. I just wanted to address it. I don't want anybody thinking I'm not addressing the elephant
Yeah.
that's in the room.
Yeah. Fair.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I'm addressing it. I've said my piece. I want you to do what you feel the most comfortable and the best course of action for the company, right?
Appreciate it.
That's
Yeah.
what I want you to do because I understand the fear that you have of having to deal with that bullshit again,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, the NASDAQ, the exchanges aren't exactly making it. I don't, I, there are a lot of things about Wall Street that I think are broken. Okay.
Hmm.
There are certain companies and things that are things that we could do that would make it easier for companies with good business plans, good ideas to be successful. I think we treat everybody the same, right? We treat
Yeah.
the big mammoth huge
Yes.
companies
Yes.
you have the same rules as Microsoft and these other guys, right?
Yeah.
They can handle it. They have a balance sheet that can handle it. When you're starting out new, it's a whole different ball game. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say we should do favorites. It should be a different system for
Easier
starters.
standards. Yeah. Look, especially on that path to cash flow, right? Where you do have financing rounds. Unfortunately for us, fingers crossed here, we're good. Like we're funded to build out that refinery. And so on the one hand, we don't, now you always care about your stock price. We don't need a high stock price to do another raise. We got to meet the minimum standards and we all want to make money. So the stock price should at least get a lift from losing that funding overhang that startups always have, right? They're coming to market. They're coming to market. Well,
Right.
we've taken that off the table. So let's remove that and then figure out where the settle is, and then people need to understand what the ultimate cap structure is going to look like. And I hope to have an answer really soon.
So let's talk about the timeline for the now that you're funded.
Yeah.
How what's the timeline to get up to speed on the recycling?
So 20, I mean, I think simply put, we're staring November in the eyes here. I spent a couple of days at site. You can see some pictures, I think, on probably on X and LinkedIn. We're building an owner's team. So it's our team and our EPCM contractor. But because we were half built, it's kind of like hooking up with an old girlfriend. You kind of know where the coffee is and all that. And it was a very smooth meeting, sort of the 6 senior people and project controls and first steps. So I probably got 5-10 million, well, over five, maybe up to 10 million of project work I can do right now, right? And that's of the 80, or sorry, we'll call it 70 million or so to build. And then we got to go to tender. And so the next couple of weeks, you can expect us to start some of these early works, or I call it phase one construction with small
Okay.
crews. Then we're going to do our tender. That'll go out before Christmas. Hopefully we award that contract before Christmas. And then you're mobilizing 100, 200 people, depending on the schedule. And so my big push here, Tim, is it's just the time value of money. It's how much can we accelerate? We had a schedule 2 years ago, and I want to take that and I want to shrink that down as much as we can. And I tell them, for every day of delay between now and the ramp up, you're deferring about $80,000 of EBITDA. So that's your deciding factor, guys. If you want to spend a little bit more to knock a week off the schedule, I've given you a good rule of thumb. Let's go to it. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're enjoying it. We got all the long supplies are there. We got our permits. So that asset is going to drive a big part of the value. We've got a few other things in the cooker as well. So there's another leg or two under the stool we can put, but we're going to get the asset tooled up with people. And then we got to set our sights on Idaho. I think America needs cobalt, and we can bring that to them.
See, and that is in alignment, right? I mean, that is in alignment. Like I said, I don't think this is going backwards. I don't think the genie's not going back in the bottle here.
Nope.
I think this is, look, it's very clear. This is a path that we need to take, and we need to take it very quickly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. In America, it's going to be America first, right? You got to get the American assets up and running. You need the ally assets because we can't do it all ourselves in the US. But yes, I think there's the will is good. What I have enjoyed working with the U.S. officials, the civil servants, the bureaucrats, there's good alignment. Like they get it, right? They get their budgets, they got their program parameters, and they execute. Some of the allied nations, it just, smaller government, smaller bureaucracy, more political meddling. Decision making is a little bit slower. American programs can be administered faster, even though it doesn't always feel that way. And so I'm pretty excited to see what we can do in Idaho.
So let me ask you, how through the ramp up,
Yeah.
how do you ensure that you keep tight constraints on capital?
On capital. Yeah, look, we've got, yeah, so when we shut the project down, paused construction in 23, we did a baseline re-estimate with a contingency, and it was about 60 million US. We're revising that, but we've done a little bit of work since then, of course. We've got that sitting at about 69 on the books right now, and we'll validate that over the next, call it 90 days. And then beyond that, I didn't quite answer your question, but I would view 2026 as kind of your execution year. And then 2027 is your ramp up, right? So as early as possible in 2027, start producing, and then we got about it's probably a 12-month ramp up realistically, right? From turning the switch to getting to 6,500 tons. In terms of managing the cash flow, part of it is going to be working capital, right? We got to bring this material in from our trading partners, Glencore and ERG, and sell it off to LG. And this is like it's a global supply chain coming in overseas. The product, a lot of it will go to America directly or indirectly. So some of it will go back to Asia, like Japan, Korea, and then come back until we again have more infrastructure here. And so to me, that's the bigger piece. I feel good about the capital to build. But if we've got to carry 50, 60, 70 million of working capital, how do we cover that off? And so we've got a couple of opportunities here to effectively synthetically toll, and bring that down from say 70 million down to 25. And that'll be a big boost to our balance sheet as well.
Okay. Okay. Um, so you're focused. You are focused on trying to get to a cash flow break
Oh,
even.
am I ever? Am I ever? Yeah. Yeah. Along 2 years. Yeah, this is certainly not a lifestyle company. It's aged me by a bit. And I tell you, even 6 months ago, I only half jokingly said, if an entrepreneur was to approach me, or a young aspiring business person saying, hey, should I do it? I'd probably say no, right? It was just the road was, but it's like, I don't want to say we're a pioneer, but we're early. And sometimes it's good to be early, but you take a lot of pain. I think it gets easier, but I'm having so much fun over the last week, right? Because I spent so much time just trying to get the balance sheet together. My lenders were good, right? They converted their debt. They're now sitting there as our biggest shareholders. So they kept us going. It's not cheap capital, but they believed in me. They believed in the team and in the asset. We've got U.S. government that believes in what we're doing. And so it's a privilege to be where we are. And as I tell my team, like we're in the don't fuck it up stage, right? Forgive my French. But we just got to do it, right? We got no reason to fail here, right? Just get the right people, get your head down. I'm driving the beat of like schedule, hurry up. Of course, safely. Of course, it's got to be quality. But like every day lost is a day of money that we're taking off the table. So, we'll give some regular updates, Tim, but it's been it's been a trial to get here, and our shareholders, especially the ones that have been in the stock or in another stock over the last few years, they deserve to reap the rewards, and I'm going to work hard to make sure they do.
And you know what, Trent? I mean, here's the reality of it, man. Here's what you've proven. You're a fighter. You're a warrior,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you are not laying down. And look, there were times I wasn't sure if you're going to make it. Yeah, I do. I may not be intimately involved, but I do pay attention to the companies that I like and I want to succeed. Sometimes you can like somebody as much as you want. If the cards don't play well for them, that's what happens, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not personal, it's just that's business. So but
Yep.
if I'm pulling for anybody, I'm pulling for Trent Mell to pull it
Hmm.
out, and you did, right?
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And
You know what, Tim, if I can go back to my first days in mining here with Barrick, the founder there, Peter Monk, just a gent of a man. And he started a bunch of business, one failure, and three of them were quite successful, but humble billionaire. And he said the difference between sort of success and wild success is luck, right? But that success, it starts with people. And if you look at the Barrick history of Barrick, um, three business guys downtown Toronto they didn't know a thing about mining, and they bought an asset. And what they bought at the end of the day was a dog of a gold mine, but they got a gold mine in the management team, right? And Bob Wares and the group that came with him built Barrick to what it is. So he was unlucky on the purchase, but he bought himself a team. And I do think I've got that. I'm blessed with a good team and some good advisors. And look, you got to focus on the plan ahead, but you got to make sure you get the right folks in the right place.
Yep. And I think you have that. I think you've shown that the company has resilience. And I do think you're in a much better place than
Yeah,
you were 8 months ago. Much better place, right? Let me see. So you are the finery is a first of its kind, right?
it is. That's right. That's right.
Okay. You want to expand on that just a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. You look at, what we get a lot of smelter furnaces and mills around the country. The advent of lithium batteries in particular has created the need for a certain kind of critical mineral product. So instead of metal that would go to, say, alloy ammunitions or jet engines, we need a cobalt sulfate and a nickel sulfate and a manganese sulfate. These are salts. They're actually in powder form. But it's a different process. And China has been investing in these for 20 years. We do have one of note in Finland, and it's co-owned by, Umicore runs the front end of that. But outside of Finland, there's nothing in North America. And so we are the first of our kind. We could produce metal as well with some further investment, but it's just a gaping hole in our supply chain. But the other gaping hole is the nickel and the manganese. There's other commodities. So it's kind of, if we can shine the light here and develop and be successful with our first refinery, maybe we build another one, or maybe somebody else does it, or maybe we consolidate. A lot can happen right now that
Right.
we're on that track to
And
cash flow.
you've got some big partners.
We do. Yeah. Yeah. We got Glencore and LG, I guess would be the standouts. And of course, DOD backing us. I'm so proud of that relationship as well.
Right. I mean, you've accomplished a lot, man.
Thank
Right.
you. Thank
Not
you.
just you,
Appreciate
but
it.
you and your team have accomplished a lot. There's a
Yeah.
lot. If somebody were to try and duplicate where you are today, could they even do it?
Yeah. I think it's like, truthfully, it's like, let's throw 5 years out there, right? It's because we had the head start of a permanent refinery, right? But it's expensive, right? This asset, once it's built, it's probably 300 million plus, but it's the time, right? Sure, you could throw the money at it, but the time, the commercial relationships, the flow sheet. The flow sheet, no, I will say we're not a tech play in the sense of IP, right? There's not a lot of We've got a couple of little things up our sleeve that are a little different, but that's more on battery recycling, which is a growth process. Making the cobalt, it's kind of a well-known recipe with just little different ingredients here and there. It's just you got to invest in the time and the skill set and just bring all those little pieces together.
And that's really kind of what creates that moat, though, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Look, and you know this, Tim, better than maybe a lot of your listeners do as well. There's a lot of, I call them PowerPoint companies, right? Hot sector, people pile in, here's my idea, and they put out some fancy slides. But hard assets, right? That's literally where the rubber hits the road. And yeah, it's not easy to do.
And that's why I love the story. So the way I view it is this. Um, the stock is in a very interesting place right now.
Yeah.
You do not have a bloated share count. You are at, and I just want to take a look here real quick at the. Yeah, I mean you're at this area of it's actually a really good area of potential support that you're sitting at right now, right? And I'm going off of the chart, and the reason why I say that is you probably can't see it because I got that big bull in the way, but I'm going to move that bull out of the way so I can show everybody. But this is not an accident that this is where the stock is hanging out. It's
Hmm.
there is price memory here, and that's why it's sitting here, right? So I'm going to move the bull out of the way. So if you just look, and I've
Hmm.
got the line, ironically, the bull line, you guys can't see it. I'm going to have to do that right here. Hold on a second. All right, hold on.
As I said, when you become a bit of a meme stock, the variations are a little crazy here. We had that crazy day on Columbus Day.
Yeah, I mean but you know what? It's not like that was that article was far
Yeah.
off. There was
No,
an
you're right.
article on Columbus Day that was basically said what?
Yeah,
It,
front page of the Financial Times of London saying the U.S. The Trump administration wants to stockpile $1 billion of critical minerals, and they're looking at a $500 million of cobalt. And
yeah,
so, where do you find cobalt in North America? Pull up your Bloomberg. I see one name, and that just sent us on a ride. And look, and you're right, Tim. I jokingly call it a meme stock. I mean, the performance has been great,
and
but
that's not
the
by
tailwinds are
accident.
real. No, you're right. It's real.
It's real. I mean that is you look up and say, okay, wait a minute, how many? Who else is there for Cobalt? There isn't anybody,
No,
right?
there's not. We had a great peer. We had a very impressive peer named Jervois or Jervois, and they had a mine in Idaho, about 80% built, and they had a portion of that Finland refinery. And unfortunately, their capital execution plan was just at the wrong time. China took the legs out from under the market just as they were getting their asset across the line, probably not by accident. And then they went through a Chapter 11. So it kind of leaves us, and we were fortunate that we weren't overextended, in the down market.
All right, so I can for some reason my chart's not letting me draw, but I think you can see that thin line, right? Where
Yep.
my cursor is. Can you see
Yep.
that?
I can. Yep.
Okay, so it goes all the way across, and if you look, you're
Yeah.
like sitting right on this support area. That's where you are, right? So I look at it like this: what's your downside risk in this name?
Mhm.
And then what is the potential upside? I
Right.
think that the risk reward here is very favorable. You the fact that it did just run to almost $9
Yep.
shows you that look, there could be some buyers in this thing and it can
Yeah.
move quickly, right?
Yes.
That's been proven already.
Yes.
I and I do believe over time you're going to take that eight whatever it is, you're going to take that out at
Yes.
some point. Okay? You don't necessarily want the stock to go up in a straight line. You want it to stair step higher, right?
Yep.
That's good, healthy. That spike, while nice to see, and if you were in it, hopefully you took some off the table when it got to eight and change,
Okay.
and you're reloading here
Yes.
because the story is really just beginning, right? Would you agree with me on that?
No, I agree. This is a look. In some ways, it's a 2.0, right? It's a reset of the debt, the capital structure, and now we've got a definitive. Instead of a maybe, right? Now we will very soon have a proper timeline, and people can model their cash flows off of our schedule and our timeline, which we'll have out here soon.
I mean, if you look at it, when you went to the net, when you went public,
Yeah.
you had the unfortunate time of going public and then having COVID hit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's right.
It was just bad timing. But you're here now. You got through the rough period. Now it's time to, now it's like you said, you can have fun, you can execute,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not be stressing and worried about and that's where you're at now with the reverse. You just don't want to have to go back to that place. You want to
Yeah.
focus on
True.
the business, and that's where you want to be, right?
That's 100%. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think we're there. I think we're there, and I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
Is there anything that you feel as though I have missed that you want to try and highlight?
Yeah, look, I think it's just the backdrop we're in, right? That's providing perhaps some of that support beyond the fundamentals, um, and the China narrative, right? Just to pull that a little bit, poke it a little more. It's the MP Materials deal that was done, right? And they're now trading at 900 times their forward EV to EBITDA multiple. Nuts, nuts. I take a fraction of that. We're at 10 or something. So I think and we talked about, right, the dislocation of capital, how the top companies are getting all the love and the bottom ones are being underappreciated. We're starting to see signs like MP, like Lithium Americas, And that's, the catalyst is often U.S. investment or U.S. involvement in floor prices and permits. But a more activist, and this is not traditional capitalism here, but a more activist U.S. government to counter the Chinese Communist Party is drawing a lot of attention. And I think that kind of stuff, especially when we're in a field of one, could provide us some good tailwinds. So, you should expect that we're paying close attention to that, right? And we want to be helpful to this
Right.
administration. We want to be helpful to the ambitions of America. So I think that's an important part of the story. It can't be the sole focus because we got to build that first asset. But we can't ignore the world we're in and not try to be a part of that solution and to reward our investors for being part of that solution.
Yeah. And I think you are positioned. I don't think people recognize how well positioned you are, right?
Mhm.
And there's a little cloud here right now. That cloud is going to blow away, and Trent and his team are going to be able to get some work done. And I think that's
Yeah.
where the focus will migrate to. The things that are getting executed, right,
Yeah.
and the position that it's putting the company in will become more and more clear to the market. And that's when I think, you know, you will be rewarded. Right now, you haven't been, but I do see that coming. And then you and I talked before we hopped on. I'm seeing a difference. Look, for the last 5 years, I was in the paint house, man, for 5 years,
Yeah. I
right?
think I was there next to you.
And I have not I've been through cycles. I have not been through one that was that painful and
Yeah.
that
And long.
long in
Yes.
duration, right? I
Yes.
mean, it was like every day you come in, it's red. It's like, what the? I mean, you know, you have a company that comes out with a positive news event, it pops for about an hour and then it
Yeah.
closes red. I mean, it's like, what in the hell is going on? I mean, nothing matters. No,
Yeah.
nobody cares, right?
Yeah.
That I can tell you in the last 4 or 5 months has changed. I have a good group of stocks that have had finally some love, and it's not just one industry. It's a good breadth, right? That gives me confidence, and I'm throwing myself out here on the ledge. I believe that we are turning from the large cap led to small.
Yeah.
There is a lot of value out there.
Yeah,
I
there
think
is.
this is
Yeah.
one of those value companies. The companies have executed through a very challenging business environment, and we're not rewarded in the slightest bit. The
Yes.
financial institutions don't help because, like you said earlier, it's not exactly friendly money or cheap money. But here's what's happening now, though: the Fed just cut the rate, right? That
Yep.
that is a favorable marketplace for small caps. I don't think they're going to be done there. I think there's going to be pressure. Inflation has come down. Uh, I think we're moving towards a small cap led market.
And
This
and
is
for
getting
and for and for individual and for stock pickers, this is a fun market, right? It's easy to pick Nvidia and Apple as we've done over the last several years, but when you now you got to go down market for the torque that this kind of environment can provide, it's fun, right? Do your homework, pick the right stock. We can all make a lot of money with the right chosen investments, and it'll be an interesting year if your predictions are right. I'm feeling it too. It does feel like there's a lot more love in the startup or the smaller cap space. So look, what I got to do, my team, we're not other than me, I guess. I guess I become an entrepreneur by default, by accident. But we all come out of big companies, right? So we're built for execution. I gotta showcase that a bit. I've got to demonstrate my progress. I've got to give you the roadmap. So, we're just closing our financing. That's already well at hand. So it'll be the beat of the drum, right? To keep showing investors where we're going, set a target, achieve it. Set a target, achieve it. And with the right backdrop, this could be a lot of fun.
no. Look. I think you're in the right place at the right time, and you're in good position. That's the difference. I mean,
Yeah.
look, you're in a comfortable position which you were not in before, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
and but you're through that, and
Yeah.
this is the breather space. This is where you say, okay, man, let's rock this thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think you're gonna rock it because I've seen what you've done over the last very challenging 5 years. It's been
Yeah,
rough, man.
it's been rough.
But you survived, brother. You are here.
Thank you.
So things are looking good for ELBM. I would say this. I don't tell anybody what to buy or sell. That's not what I do. What I present is what I think are good opportunities with a good risk reward proposition, right? And I mean, anything can happen in the marketplace. I don't proclaim to know all, but I can tell you that I'm pretty good at. It's always important to me to get to know management, right? Because and why is that important? Well, because I learn who the person is. That's
Mm,
really what it comes down to. I get to know the person on almost an intimate level, so that and that makes me trust, right? So if I can trust that this person is going to fight and I think they're going to come out on top, that it does me well over time. What I'm really good at is picking good companies. I'm not good at the whole crystal ball thing of telling you
I,
exactly when that's going to happen,
yeah,
right? That I'm horrible at. But if you can have the patience as an investor, and that's what you need to have, and you recognize what this company represents, what are they bringing to the table? Is it
mm,
a need? There is no question it's a need,
yeah,
right? And you fill that need and you are way ahead of anybody else. There's nobody that can catch you.
yeah,
I personally, I'm saying that. I don't think anybody can catch you. So
yeah,
that puts you in a very good place. So if I were you and you're watching this, I would go to their website. I would sign up for their investor alerts and pay attention. I would go buy one share. I could say this, Trent, because it's one share, right? I mean,
yeah,
look, if it if you have 80 million people go buy one share, that's pretty good,
yeah.
right?
And we got good liquidity, so we'll keep the liquidity. You can sell it, buy it, and sell it, right? And play the tape.
Yeah, I mean, look, buy one share, and here's why. You'll pay attention to what's happening with the company. If you don't have any skin in the game at all, you'll forget this interview. Just
Yeah.
dip your toe, and that way you pay attention to what's happening with the company. When it runs to $10, you'll be a little upset that you only have one share, but that's okay.
I like that. I like that. Maybe two shares then.
All right, Trent. I want to thank you for taking the time to do this, man.
You've been
When should
kind.
we
Thank
do
you,
a
Tim.
when should we do a follow up with you?
You know what? Within 30 days there'll be a bunch of news. So you tell me. I mean, I think I've got lots coming in the next 3 weeks by way
How
of an
about
update.
this?
So
How about when you feel as though there is something that, look, we don't have to do it. The next interview could be 10 minutes if you want, right?
yeah, yeah,
Uh, when you feel as though there's something that you want to expand upon, hey, here's what this
yeah.
means
Okay.
to the
Yes.
company, right?
Yeah.
Just hit me and we'll make that happen.
I will do that.
All right,
All right.
perfect. Thanks, Trent. Hold on one
Appreciate
second.
the kind words.
I'm gonna shut this off. Thank you for
All right.
tuning in to another CEO interview here at Alpha Wolf Capital. Today we had Trent Mell from Electra Battery Materials. I hope you enjoyed today's interview, and if you did, do us a favor, give us a like. How about giving us a share? And while you're at it, make sure you smash that subscribe button. All of those things are extremely important to us here at Alpha Wolf Capital, and we appreciate you taking the time to do that. Till next time, stay safe. Alpha Wolf Capital wishes you the very best of success.